Millions of people toss bread to birds and feel like they are helping. A crust on the lawn, a handful of crumbs near a pond, a few slices scattered across a park path. It looks kind. It looks harmless. Yet this daily habit can create a quiet crisis for the animals people are trying to save. The bird flies in, eats fast, and leaves with a full stomach. What it does not get is the food its body was built to use. That is the trap. Bread can fill a bird up while slowly wearing its health down. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this fails and how to fix it in your own home. This is not a story about poison. Bread is not toxic to birds. That point matters because the danger is easier to miss when the bird does not collapse right away. The problem is what bread lacks. According to the research provided, birds are omnivores, and their natural diet includes seeds, fruits, insects, and nuts. Those foods do real work inside a bird's body. They support growth, daily movement, feather health, and breeding. Bread does not match that natural diet, and when it becomes a regular food source, the damage can build over time. This happens often because feeding birds is already a normal part of life for many people. According to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, or RSPB, a study found that around 50% of people in the United Kingdom regularly feed birds, and bread is one of the most frequently offered foods. That is a huge share of the public taking part in a habit that feels caring but can push birds in the wrong direction. In urban areas, where natural food can already be harder to find, bread becomes even more common. The first problem is simple. A bird that fills up on bread stops looking for better food. Birds do not eat for fun. They eat to meet fast, constant energy needs. Their bodies are always working. If they spend part of the day eating processed scraps from people, that time is not spent searching for seeds, insects, fruit, or nuts. The result is a false sense of fullness. The stomach is full, but the body is underfed. That is why bread acts like junk food for backyard wildlife. It offers bulk without the nutrition birds normally get from natural foods. According to a 2015 article published in Animal Conservation, feeding bread can lead to malnutrition and obesity in birds, and that can reduce reproductive success. That finding challenges a common belief. Many people think any extra food must help birds survive. The evidence says regular bread feeding can do the opposite. It can leave birds heavier, less healthy, and less able to raise young. There is also a behavior cost. According to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, in a 2020 report, feeding birds processed foods, including bread, can alter their feeding habits and lead to dependency on human-provided food sources. That means the bird does not just eat a poor food, it can begin to depend on a poor food. Over time, natural foraging behavior gets disrupted. Instead of searching shrubs, soil, bark, seed heads, and leaf litter, birds learn to wait for people. That change matters because foraging is not random. It is a survival skill. Backyard birds are built to pick through grass, hunt bugs, crack seeds, and use seasonal food that shifts through the year. Bread teaches a shortcut. The shortcut looks easy, but it weakens the behavior that keeps wild birds wild. Wildlife experts have warned about this risk, especially in places where human feeding happens day after day. The mainstream expert view in the research is clear. Regular bread feeding is harmful because it can hurt health and reduce natural feeding skills. There is a different perspective, and it is one many families believe. Some bird enthusiasts argue that bread can attract and support birds during tough seasons when natural food is scarce. That view comes from compassion, not neglect. People see cold weather, empty branches, or dry lawns and want to help. But the expert response in the research is direct. Bread might attract birds, but attraction is not the same as support. If the food does not meet their needs, the bird is still losing out. The next danger is physical damage, and it is most serious in growing birds. The research for this script states that a high-calorie, low-nutrient diet can cause angel wing in waterfowl and severe metabolic bone disease in songbirds. That is not a cosmetic issue. It is a body structure problem caused during development. When the diet is poor and unbalanced, bones and wings may not form the way they should. Angel wing is one of the most disturbing examples because you can actually see it. The wing joints twist outward as the bird grows, and the feathers stick out at an odd angle instead of lying flat against the body. The bird may survive, but survival is not the same as health. A bird that cannot fly well or cannot fly at all loses its main defense. Flight is escape. Flight is access to food. Flight is how many birds avoid danger every single day. For songbirds, the research points to severe metabolic bone disease. In plain language, that means poor diet can damage the body's framework. Bones are not just hard parts hidden under feathers. They support landing, takeoff, balance, nesting, and movement through branches and ground cover. A body built on poor food pays the price in weakness. Bread also changes what happens around the feeding spot itself. The danger does not end when the bird swallows the crumb. Leftover bread gets wet fast. Once it turns soggy, it can support mold growth. The research notes a deadly toxic mold called aspergillus, which can cause fatal respiratory infections in birds. That turns a friendly patch of lawn or a pond edge into a risky place to feed. This is where a small daily act can scale up into an environmental problem. One person tossing a little bread may not notice the leftovers. A neighborhood doing it over and over creates piles of stale food that birds trample, peck, and breathe around. Instead of a natural feeding pattern spread across shrubs, trees, and open ground, bread pulls birds into one crowded point. Crowding brings another threat. According to the research, scattering bread creates artificial feeding frenzy spots that draw predators like stray cats and rats straight to the birds. This matters because birds gathered around easy food are less spread out and more predictable. A predator does not have to search as hard. The bread becomes bait, not just for birds, but for the animals that hunt them. That crowding can also shift the habits of larger birds. The research notes that some species, like ducks and geese, are observed to change their migratory patterns or feeding habits due to consistent feeding by humans. That detail should stop people in their tracks. Bread is not only changing one meal. In some cases, it can change behavior on a much larger scale. There's even a familiar city example that fits this pattern. The research mentions the anecdote of pigeon obesity, where overfed city pigeons are reportedly more prone to health issues than their wild counterparts. People often laugh at fat pigeons waddling near benches and sidewalks. The image seems funny. The cause is not. It reflects what happens when wildlife eats too much poor food in human spaces. Awareness of this problem has been growing. The research says that as of 2024, wildlife organizations are increasing educational campaigns urging people to offer more appropriate alternatives. Recent studies are still looking at the effects of urban feeding on bird populations, especially species adaptation and long-term health outcomes. That means experts are not moving away from concern. They are paying closer attention. There is one point worth holding on to. You do not have to stop feeding birds. You just have to stop feeding them bread. The fix is simple and much closer to a bird's natural diet. The research lists nutrient-rich alternatives such as seeds, nuts, fruits, and specialized bird feed designed to meet the dietary needs of different species. The users provided examples also include sunflower seeds, unsalted nuts, mealworms, and chopped fruit. Those foods give birds a better chance to eat in a way their bodies recognize. That swap changes the whole meaning of feeding. Instead of filling birds up with low-value food, you support natural behavior. Instead of training them to wait for processed scraps, you offer foods closer to what they already seek in the wild. Instead of turning your yard into a crowded danger zone built around soggy bread, you can make it a safer place for regular visits. The biggest myth in this story is the simplest one. If a bird eagerly eats something, people assume it must be good for the bird. That belief feels right because appetite looks like approval. The research challenges that belief. Birds will eat bread, but eating is not proof of good nutrition. A full stomach is not proof of good health. So the next time you see sparrows hopping near a patio, finches at the feeder, robins crossing the grass, or ducks gathering by the water, remember what the evidence shows. According to the RSPB, bread is commonly fed. According to Animal Conservation in 2015, it can lead to malnutrition and obesity and reduce reproductive success. According to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in 2020, processed foods can alter feeding habits and create dependency. The pattern is clear. Trade the crust for real food. Choose seeds, nuts, fruit, mealworms, or bird feed made for birds. By making that one change, you can turn your backyard from a hazard into a true wildlife sanctuary. What do you usually feed the birds in your neighborhood?